If you can't take a 2-week vacation away from your laptop without your agency falling apart, let's be honest, you aren't really a business owner. Your business has just become your new full-time job. I know this because I didn't have any systems in place when I was scaling my first agency, and I had no clue what it looked like operating at scale. If I didn't check Slack, if I didn't get on check-in calls with clients, if I didn't take sales calls, if I didn't manage outbound, if I didn't help out with service delivery, my agency would slowly but surely begin to crumble. At the end of the day, most of us start our agencies not only for financial freedom, but also time freedom. Ironically, my agency was taking up more time than a full-time job. What changed everything for me was learning how to build systems so that the agency could run more efficiently with less of my time needed. I realized the agency game doesn't reward founders who work the hardest. The agency game rewards people who build systems for scale. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do just that. The systems you need, how to design them step by step, and how you can save yourself from the chaos through systems. Before I show you the specific systems to use within your agency, let's back up for a second and talk about the importance of systems and how detrimental it is to not have systems within your agency business. First thing to note, as a one-man agency without any systems is your ceiling on time. Especially in order to scale past 10K, it is almost essential to have systems in place unless you're willing to work 12-hour work days, which is going to lead to burnout anyway. You as an individual only have so many hours in a day. Your inputs and outputs are capped. This simple fact makes it virtually impossible to scale an agency to any significance without systems. The second reason agencies fail without systems in place is an inability to delegate tasks. Without systems and SOPs in place, managing employees becomes an absolute nightmare for two reasons. One, the employees don't have the resources that they need to excel within their role. And two, there's no way for you to track productivity as the owner. Now, the third reason agencies fail due to not having systems is human error. The more dependent an agency is on manual human effort, the more room there is for error. Humans make mistakes all the time. We get tired, we skip over words, we get emotional. These human errors can be mitigated by having standardized automated systems in place. Lastly, not having systems in place will most likely lead to a bad client experience or a bad client journey. Clients want to feel that the agency performing services is a well-run ship. Without any systems, clients will feel that their marketing efforts are left in the hands of amateurs. This causes refund requests, naggy clients, and even chargebacks. So we know it's expensive in time and money to not have systems, but what even is a system in the first place? Well, an agency system is a structured sequence of actions, tools, processes, and standards that turn an input into a consistent measurable output. Let me get into some agency-specific examples so you can see what I mean. For example, let's talk about a client onboarding system. A deal gets closed within your CRM, and the deal is dragged from the call booked pipeline stage to the deal closed pipeline stage. This simple action would be considered our input. From there, within our automated system, we have our sequence of actions, tools, processes, and standards that can fire from a software like Zapier. This one simple single input triggers the client contract going out, a welcome email going out, the client intake form going out, a custom Google Drive folder being created, and a kickoff call gets booked with the client. With this one simple input, the system allows us to have a robust output of the client being successfully onboarded. Let's do another one. Let's say a new call gets booked from your outbound efforts or your paid ads. Most agencies have a system in place to warm up the deal for any new appointments. The input of a call being booked begins our sequence of actions, tools, processes, and standards. On an automated level, the closer can be alerted that a new appointment has been booked via text. The deal automatically moves to the call booked pipeline stage within your CRM, and the deal enters into an SMS and email appointment reminder campaign. Once again, this simple input has a system behind it that creates an output where the whole business accommodates this new appointment. It's pretty straightforward. We'll do one more on the topic of project management. Let's say within your Basecamp or Airtable board, the deal is shifted to campaign ready to launch stage. This simple input can trigger a sequence of actions, tools, processes, and standards to take place. The account manager is updated to execute on the campaign, and the client is updated on the campaign status. One simple input to a more robust output. That is how systems can 10x your productivity and outputs with you spending less time. The system examples that I just mentioned are what would be considered automated systems. They all involve automation as part of the sequence of action. This does not mean all systems are automated. A system can also simply be some type of procedure that is done manually following an SOP. And now AI systems are becoming more and more popular. Maybe having ChatGPT execute on copywriting or using some type of AI agent is becoming more and more common. So now you understand why it's so important to build these systems and clearly understand what they look like. Let's get into the step-by-step methods that myself and my mentees are actually using to build these. Step 1 is documenting every single task and moving piece within your agency. In the description below, you can access a template version of this document to use for yourself. When you open it up, just make sure to hit File, make yourself a copy, and you'll be ready to go from there. This document is what I would call a systems or task audit. It's pretty straightforward. We are going to start keeping track of all of the tasks that are pretty much taking up our time on the day-to-day basis within the operation of our agency. So we have the template version here of where we're going to document a task. It's pretty straightforward. We write the task here. We're then going to categorize the task, which we'll talk more about that later in the video. From there, we need to research and implement the system. And then lastly, we're going to create an SOP. So every single task, everything that you are doing that's taking up time within your agency, we want to start documenting that and getting in the habit of creating a system. What you're going to do is just simply copy the template, and then at the bottom here, we're going to go ahead and paste, and we're going to begin keeping record of all the different tasks within our agency. Before worrying too much about next steps, just make sure to get every single task you can think of within your agency onto the document. That will end up looking just like this. For example, one task would be creating an SOP, another task would be outreach, another task example could be client onboarding, maybe script writing for content. We have client branding, storytelling, launching campaigns, go high level workflow setup, sales calls, could be CRO, conversion rate optimization, client check-in calls, you name it. You want to think of every single task that is coming up within your business. Once we run the task audit and have clarity on all the moving pieces within our agency, now we want to categorize each task. All tasks will generally fall into one or two of 5 different categories. The task may need processes. You may be able to automate the task. AI might be able to replace the task. The task might be something that needs to be delegated. Or lastly, the task might be something that you actually want to insert yourself into the business and continue to do yourself. The question is how do we determine which category makes the most sense for any given task? There isn't always a for certain category to choose for any given task. The category that makes sense within your agency for a specific task could look completely different for a different agency, even though it's the same task. And this is heavily based on where you're at within the business. For example, let's say the task we're focusing on is sales and closing. We have agency A that's doing $10,000 per month in revenue, and then we have agency B that's doing $30,000 per month in revenue with predictable lead generation. For agency A that's doing $10K per month, it's going to make more sense for the owner to insert themselves into this role. Generally, the lead generation within an agency that's only at 10K isn't consistent enough to bring on a closer yet. The owner of agency A should still focus on creating resources for when they do bring on a closer in the future. For agency B that's doing 30K per month, they're going to put that task in a different category. This agency is at the point where they are going to be ready to delegate this task. At this point, the business has a stronger foundation, and a closer placed in the role will actually be able to excel. Figuring out which categories make the most sense within your marketing agency business requires insights, research, and ideally professional consulting from an expert like myself. On that note, feel free to book a consultation if you're struggling, where we can give you some pointers. The link is in the description below. But let me do my best to educate you on how you can make these types of decisions for yourself. Here are some good questions to ask yourself to determine which category is going to be best for the tasks within your agency. Is this task something that I would like to keep my personal touch on? If yes, that task will go into the insert category. Understand that you can insert yourself and create processes around a task to make it more efficient. Another question would be, is this task something that AI could replace? If so, do some further research and test it out. As AI continues to evolve, AI agents will become more effective at executing on these systems within your agency. We want to ask ourselves, is this task easy to automate? You can check if Zapier has an integration for the automation you're looking to achieve. If they do, you should always do so. This way, we're avoiding human error when possible. Another good question to ask is this task something that can't be fully automated or can't be replaced by AI, but could and should be delegated to a team member or a new hire? If so, let's think through the system, create the SOP, and give the role to one of your team members, or the job search begins for a new hire. These are the types of questions you need to be asking yourself in order to determine which category makes the most sense for all of the different tasks within your agency. And don't forget that it's heavily based on where your agency is currently at. Now, once we have successfully categorized each task, it's time to research the system we are looking to build and begin implementation. To give you a better idea of how this is done, I'll go ahead and briefly walk you through some examples of some of the most common agency systems and tasks that we see. So let's jump over here to the task audit template, and we'll go ahead and take a look at some of these tasks. For example, creating SOPs is a task within the agency. For the category, I put this under the AI category. In terms of the research and implementation, which is what I'm trying to help you guys get a better understanding of how to go about. Once you understand the category, it's really a matter of just researching how to actually execute on that. And again, the examples I run you through will give you a better idea. And with this being something that can be replaced by AI, it's a matter of finding the right software. A really really good AI software to use for creating SOPs within your agency is usewhale.io. So definitely go ahead and check that out. Let's talk about client onboarding. So when we think about client onboarding, the category is automation. So this is something that can be automated. So when I do my research and implementation, the very first thing that I need to do is lay out everything that is happening within the client onboarding. So we have the client contract go out. We have the welcome email go out. We want to have an intake form go out. Maybe we have a custom Slack channel that gets opened up, and then we need the client to book their kickoff call. So once I have everything laid out that goes into the client onboarding, I'm just going to do some digging, figure out how I can go about automating this process. So this does take some time and experience to actually really know what you're capable of doing. And again, that's where it is nice to have someone with experience be able to take a look at your tasks, figure out what's the best system to put behind it. So for example, with client contracts, I use PandaDoc. I know Zapier software has an integration with triggers and actions to where we can automate the process. Same thing with a welcome email. I know that within the Zapier software, they have an action and automation within there where we can send out a welcome email based on a trigger happening from PandaDoc. So we can have a trigger where your PandaDoc agreement gets signed, which then automates the next actions to happen. So we would have a welcome email go out, and at the end of the welcome email, we ask them to complete the intake form. And then the last slide on the intake form could be pushing them to the kickoff call calendar. Even opening up a custom Slack channel, the trigger could be the PandaDoc agreement getting signed potentially. And then that information would open up a new Slack channel based on that client's name. So we're getting all of this done with one simple input, which is just having them sign the contract. We're getting all of these different tasks done with an automated system. Let's do another one. Let's talk about script writing. So let's say we have a task which is script writing for a client's organic content, let's say, or let's say it's script writing for a newsletter or an ad campaign. Most agencies have some form of script writing that needs to be getting done. So the beautiful thing with AI in 2026 is it does a really good job at copywriting. So that's why for copywriting, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the AI category. Now, is this something you could insert yourself in? Surely. Is this something that you could delegate? Surely. Copywriting generally isn't something you're going to automate. Maybe to a certain extent, it is something you could build processes around, but we can use AI for copywriting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to train up a custom GPT for whatever type of copywriting I'm looking to do. So for example, if I'm script writing for paid ads, I'm going to train up a custom GPT on winning ads and then tell it to write similar copy for my client specific campaign. So this is pretty straightforward. This isn't rocket science. We're just researching and implementing on the system that we're looking to build based on the category that we put the task in. Another good one here to help you get an idea of the research and implementation section would be sales calls. So sales calls is either going to be something that we delegate, or that's going to be something that we insert ourselves into and continue to do as the owner. So I'm just kind of jotting notes here and executing on a system for the agency. So my plan might be to stay involved in sales calls until my calendar is completely full and we have excess calls. Once we have excess call volume, that's when I'll look into bringing a closer. So this would be a beginner agency owner that still has themselves inserted in the actual closing for the business. At this stage, I might be creating offer-specific sales training for once I bring on a closer. And I might begin in the background looking for a closer, or maybe even looking for a sales agency that's going to help me with placement of an appointment setter or closer. So these are obviously pretty simple systems to build within an agency, but this is going to give you a better idea of what the research and implementation stage of building a system looks like. Now, once we have the system implemented and it's operating as desired, the final step is creating a standard operating procedure, or SOP, to keep record of how the system works. Creating SOPs are even more important for tasks that are being placed in the delegation category. The SOP is what we're going to give to the new hire to help them execute in their role. And as the agency scales more and more, almost every single task is going to end up being delegated. So just get in the habit of creating SOPs for everything now. Generally, there are 3 main ways to create SOPs. Option 1 would be a walkthrough video of the task being performed. The software that I recommend for creating video style SOPs is loom.com. Simply record yourself with screen share share on while performing the task. This keeps record of the task and also makes it a lot easier to delegate the task in the future because your hire is going to be able to look at the video SOP and go ahead and execute in their role. Option 2 would be a simple Google document SOP. If you're going to go with Google Documents as your form of making SOPs, keep in mind that you just want the document to be as detailed as possible. Remember, the goal of an SOP is to be able to give a new hire that SOP and it having all the information they need to execute on that role, on that task, on that job without coming to you for any assistance. If it's detailed enough, they can take the SOP and run with it. Side note, ChatGPT does a great job of writing written SOPs. Give it a prompt as so to have it write your SOP for you. Act as a COO building documentation for a 7-figure marketing agency. Create a complete professional SOP for the task below. Make sure that the SOP is easy to follow so new hires can execute on the task without any assistance. Feel free to ask me questions you have about the SOP to ensure it's created properly before you make it. Under that prompt, you're just going to insert a detailed explanation of the task and provide any and all tools, logins required, links, screenshots, and examples so that ChatGPT has all the information it needs to execute on the SOP. And boom, just like that, from ChatGPT, you have your written SOP. Option 3 for creating SOPs would be using a software or an AI software specifically designed for creating SOPs. A great one to consider, as I mentioned before, is usewhale.io. So after following these steps, if done correctly, we will have every single task within our agency properly systemized with an SOP behind it. Once you have all of the systems in place, we are left with one final step. We need to test it. The best way to test if your agency is properly systemized is what I call the phone test. So for a full 2 weeks, you're going to put your laptop away and see if you can run your agency strictly from your phone only. No laptop can be used with exception to the tasks that you choose to continue to do yourself. If you're at the point where you have a team, you're absolutely still allowed to manage them. I'd encourage you to get the Slack mobile app on your phone to help with this. And let's see which systems survive and which systems break. The ones that survive, great. We can leave those alone and continue to let them run. And the ones that break during the 2-week test are obviously going to need some more work. Now, if you're serious about saving time, operating your agency at full efficiency, and scaling your agency further, running a task audit and building the proper systems is absolutely essential. Again, in the description below, I've provided you with the exact task audit document that I just showed you, the one that I just walked you through. This is the exact task audit document that I use and that my mentees use to help with our agencies. No opt-in is necessary. Just open up the doc, make a copy, and start filling in all of your tasks. Once you've filled out the task audit document, you can then schedule a consultation with us where we'll sit with you one-on-one to review the systems inside of your agency. You can also try to do this on your own, but just know that we're here to help with any systems that might break. Or maybe there are some more complex systems that you're working on that you would like us to take a look at. Lastly, I want to invite you to click on the next video to check out one of my success interviews with Max. After just a few months of working with each other, Max went from $28K per month to a 7-figure level after implementing what I taught him, with some of it being exactly what we went over today in this video. See you there.